Hey folks, how you doing? It's Ricky here. Just wanted to go over a quick set of things. I wouldn't like to call this a manifesto because that sounds like it's too much something that a fucking terrorist would do before they committed suicide or bombed a building or some stupid shit like that. So let me just simply ask the question to all of the boomers and people that follow Q Anon. How's Q's plan working out for you? See, he promised that the secret anti-cabal would save you from the deep state, and that hasn't happened because that secret anti-cabal that's within the cabal doesn't exist. He promised that DC and Hollywood pedophiles would be arrested in early 2019. That didn't happen. Q said that Robert Mueller would turn against the elites and would work with Trump against the cabal, and that didn't happen. In fact, the complete opposite happened. When Robert Mueller couldn't find any evidence Trump didn't do anything wrong, Mueller went out of his way to say that, sure, I didn't find any evidence that he did anything wrong, but I didn't find any evidence that he did anything right either. He promised you that there would be mass arrests of traitors within the deep state by early 2020. That didn't happen. When confronted with his lies, Q outright said that sometimes that he needs to lie in order to his followers in order to enact his plans. Q promised that Trump would win the 2020 election. That didn't happen. Q called for an uprising against the deep state on January 6th. Q's tip of the spear protesters that were the front of his vanguard were Antifa and BLM members who worked with the DC police to set all your asses up to take the fall and be painted as domestic terrorists by the media. Q then promised Biden would never be inaugurated, but Trump would. Then he changed his story and said that both Biden and Trump would be inaugurated separately. Now Q says that Biden would need to be inaugurated in order to enact his plan, but what fucking plan? He hasn't told us what the hell the plan is, and that we just need to trust the plan. Now today in D.C., we have more soldiers in it than all 3 war on terror combat zones combined. Both the Dems and GOP have thrown Trump supporters and his voters under the bus, and most of them have outright labeled you as terrorists. The FBI is hunting down every single person that showed up to Washington, D.C. to protest on January 6th. The soldiers in D.C. are being given loyalty tests across the board by the FBI to see if any of them believe the election was stolen, if any of them voted for Trump, etc. Trump refused to use the Insurrection Act, which was duly within his realm of power, in order to stop the steal, but he didn't. Q promised that he was going to do that, but that didn't happen. In fact, Trump's already given his farewell speech, so that's another lie that Q gave us. And that's the thing, Q has so many of you hooked on these sweet false lies that he's been giving you, that you honestly believe that 25,000 soldiers in Washington, D.C., all of the Patriot missile batteries and armored vehicles, is to arrest both the Congress and the Senate, and to arrest all of the deep state actors and take them all in one fell swoop. But the truth of the matter is that Trump is a placebo. Now, for most of you that are unfamiliar with the medical term, placebo is a sugar pill that makes you think you're taking medicine, but it's really not medicine, and meanwhile, either the change in your mental state makes you get better, or you don't get better. And that's why they give you a placebo, is to see whether or not what's wrong with you is mental or physical, or even to see if your mind can do a mind over body thing and make something physical get healed. But anyways, I'm digressing. I believe that Trump, let me go back just a little bit. The truth is that Trump, not Biden, has ordered those troops there, and he didn't order them there to do anything about the corruption in D.C. Like I said, he's already given his farewell address. He's already said he's handing over the reins of power to Biden. He says he's going to continue his fight out there among the states as a resistance leader or whatever, but I don't give a shit, and I don't trust him at this point, and you shouldn't either, and this is why. He didn't order the troops there to do anything about the corruption in D.C. or the Chinese-backed coup that got Biden into office. No, those soldiers there are there to protect the most popular president in American history, according to how many votes he got, and the dutifully elected representatives of the people from, well, we the people. The soldiers are there to protect the Marxist satanic elites from you. And the problem this whole time, the problem not just in Trump's administration, but Obama and Bush before him, is you all believe the comforting lies that you're told, and you always have. It's easier for your weak mind to accept those lies than to be able to handle the truth. Because like your fathers before you really don't have any strength of mind or spirit. And unlike the newer generations, you have not gone through the hardship and personal reflection to be able to develop it. You don't follow the truth no matter where it leads, and you have not passed through the dark night of the human soul where you stare into that abyss. The abyss stares back at you, but in the end you still remain changed, but still your own person. And the truth is that Trump was placed there by the New World Order to draw out their enemies and have us basically do their work for them and self-identify ourselves, so that we could not only be purged from social media and that our ideas could be silenced, but so that the state could begin tracking us and placing us on lists. I mean, hell, it's already started. The airlines, without the help of the government, has already placed all of these Trump protesters that were in Washington, D.C. on January 6th on the no-fly list. As far as I'm concerned, the TSA and FBI and CIA are the only governmental entities that can place people on the no-fly list, but these corporations are taking it upon themselves to do that. And to top that all off, the CIA and FBI and TSA, not a single one of them has done so much as speak a word up against the usurpation of power between that these corporations are taking that is technically legally held by these agencies. And I wonder why. Could it be that the FBI and CIA and corporations have been slowly infiltrated by elite Marxists for decades? Could it be that these same Marxist corporations have purchased and bought off most of your senators and congressmen? Could it be that for the last decade and a half, when the liberty movement was young and uncorrupted and was pushing back against the oppression of a tyrannical government and corrupt politicians, you chose to sit on your ass and do nothing, just like you did when you followed Q these past 4 years? Just like the Devin Stack, who is the YouTuber known as Blackpilled and the author of the book Blackpilled, coined the term CIA Pied Piper psychological operation. A Pied Piper op is one in which an intelligence agency starts leaking out false information, and this false information is to lead your enemy, well, not only to distract your enemy, but lead them to target things that are either advantageous to you, or those targets are false targets or distractions to keep them from attacking the real enemy. And Q Anon for the past 4 or 5 years has kept telling us that we just need to sit back and watch the show. And you don't need to do anything other than vote for Trump and speak up online and swear an oath to the Q army and believe Q no matter what. And it sickens me because I remember when the time came, y'all chose to complain when liberty activists who were actually accomplishing something for we the people and our freedom, I remember when you called us radicals who were hunting gun rights by lawfully exercising those rights in public. I mean, it was after years of openly carrying AR-15s, AR-10s, FALs, and AK-47s on our backs in Texas that we finally got licensed open carry, and licensed open carry was just a consolation prize for the constitutional carry we wanted. I remember the Republican Party of Texas even said that they were not going to give us constitutional carry because they weren't afraid of the crime going up, but they were afraid of losing the $30 million a year in mandatory money they were getting from licensing because they were afraid that people would stop using the licenses if they gave them their rights back. I remember when good men were cornered by the ATF on their own property, even this past year, last year, and taken out by snipers. And y'all shook your heads and convinced yourselves that he was just mentally ill. Some of you know who I'm talking about, some of you don't. But either way, after all, only a mentally ill person would defy an unconstitutional government organization that sought to deprive him of his rights and his property based on unfounded accusations. If that doesn't make you ashamed of yourself, it fucking should. I remember when the Oath Keepers themselves, that organization that's supposed to be members of militia, active duty military, and law enforcement that are all supposed to respect and obey their oaths to the U.S. Constitution. I remember when they and Stuart Rhodes refused to even verbally support the Oregon Wildlife Refuge protesters, much less go out, get off their asses and go out there and help them. And even more of you fell silent after Lavoy Finicum's sheriff set him up to be assassinated by state troopers, but I remember. So let me just finish by saying that I'm glad that your bubble was finally burst. I'm glad that you were lied to and that you lost everything. I'm glad that your fantasy is finally coming to an end, because maybe now that a man with a D next to his name is in office, you'll finally start giving a shit about the Constitution and freedom like you did when Obama was in the White House. Because when Trump was shredding the Second Amendment, you certainly didn't give a fuck, and you most certainly attacked anyone that dared question your almighty Lord and Savior, Donald John Trump. But then again, isn't that the illusion of a fantasy within itself, that you're actually going to get up off your ass and do anything? Because during the Obama administration, you didn't do shit other than complain. Now that you know that complaining and exposing the Marxist left's hypocrisy isn't going to do anything, because they don't give a fuck about their hypocrisy, and on top of that, they also control now all forms of mainstream communication. The only thing they haven't been able to do right now is shut your fucking phones off for speaking things that they don't like. And so my message has been and will always be, for one, if you're a Christian, you should be fucking ashamed of yourself because you placed more faith and effort and mental energy towards Donald Trump than you have Jesus Christ these past 4 years, and you should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. And if you are ashamed of yourself, take that shame and repent and do better. And if you're not a Christian, but you're just a red-blooded American and a constitutionalist, look, our founding fathers didn't have heroes to save them. No matter how much complaining they did or exposing the hypocrisy of the crown, it didn't stop King George from sending in the troops and pointing guns at people and demanding that they disarm. You're going to have to take your fucking rifle. You're going to have to point it downrange at your own fellow countrymen when the time comes, and you're going to have to be your own goddamn hero.